still in the morning time, so good morning everyone, and welcome to this interesting and quite, for me at least, abnormal session, because we are having guests from the Maldives, from the Netherlands, to talk about a joint project that is conducted together with the University of Jordan. We also have online our colleague from India, who also is partner on the project and doing lots of experimental work and in the Maldives Islands. The idea of the project was quite interesting because it's one of the projects in which we were looking for the local knowledge and how to build on the local knowledge in water management systems that are to improve the quality of life in the Maldives Islands, but also to share experiences with other parts of the world in which we have already different environmental conditions. So I'm grateful to the IHE in the Netherlands, in which Asila already started or initiated the idea of communicating with the University of Jordan, and give us also the chance to join the team and be part of this interesting project. I would not spend lots of time on the introduction because we already consumed time from the previous session. But we have different speakers. So first we will have Asila from IHE, the Netherlands, who will give a general introduction about the project, the components of the project, what is the idea of integrating also Jordan as a partner, so just a general, so to put you on the mood of the project, okay? And then we will hear from Fazila representing the Maldives, and she will give us more insights on how the local people there prepare water sources and how did they manage also with the utilities. So different sources. Atul will more focus on from India. He will focus more on water quality issues, right? And will present the work that was done from NIRI, his institute in the islands. And then we will, because during the course of the project, the partners were also introduced to the water safety planning concept. And this, we will have some insights on this topic from Okosowa, from the IHE, and this afterwards will be followed by a presentation from the University of Jordan, from our MSc student who did some work on kind of water runoff management in Amman, but on decentralized scale, okay? Which also fits in the concept of small-scale management, water management systems. Without further delay, I would like to welcome Asila for his presentation, the first presentation, to give an overview on the project. Please, Asila, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Maha, for that very generous introduction and also hosting us here. So as was introduced, we are going to talk about islands, but please don't leave, because I will try to justify your existence here, listening to a talk about islands. Why? Right? Because we are here in the Middle East, in Jordan. So you might be wondering why these guys are trying to talk about small islands, but let me try to justify that reason in this presentation. So as Maha introduced, this is a project called 3S Water, Sustaining Small-Scale Water Utilities. It talks about the bottom-up approaches. It talks about how to attune with people, what you need to do when you want to provide solutions that works with communities. It talks about sustainability of infrastructure, right? How to do things and how not to do things in water supply, sanitation, and generally water systems management. So, okay, let's see. Yes. So, first of all, about this project, 3S Water Project, it is it has 5 pillars. The context of the project is mainly the Republic of the Maldives, but the second partner of the project is the Kingdom of Jordan. So again, it's a very questionable combination. Why you are connecting a small island state together with a very continental, very dry area. That contrast was one of the reasons why we selected it this way. Anyway, before going there, the project has 5 pillars. Investigating the current situation, the baseline of the situation. Then we have pilots and monitoring related that I'll come to these things, capacity development, and we do quite a bit of citizen science in this project, and we also support higher education. Now, before going any further, I would like you to have a close look at these 2 rather complicated looking graphs. This explains what is the problem with small islands. If you look at the graph on the left, you see that the x-axis is the coastline length, the y-axis is land area. So think of it as a medieval fort. You are trying to protect a certain area. The longer your fort, the more difficult it is for you to protect. So this is exact same situation against climate change. When you go to small islands, what happens is you have a very tiny land area that is surrounded by a long coastline. What makes it is that and these countries become extremely vulnerable to the climate change driven sea level rise and other problems. So here what you see is that bottom of this graph you have things like Maldives, Palau, Micronesia. So these are small islands where you can see for one square kilometer of land area you have more than 1 kilometer of coastline, 2, 3 sometimes. So that makes climate adaptation an extremely expensive and difficult endeavor. Now look at the graph on the right hand side. That graph is about tourism. X-axis is tourism expenditure, that is the people, how much money the tourists spend in the country as a ratio of the GDP of the country. The y-axis is the tourist visits as a ratio of the population of the country. So what you see is extreme top right, you have these island nations. So this is, in some cultures we say that tail wagging the dog. So what happens is, tourism has by far very high impact on the economies, the well-being of this country. And this was proven during the COVID-19 pandemic, because tourism stopped and then these countries were really impacted by it. So that is a little bit of the context. Now, I promised you that I'm going to justify talking about islands in this continental meeting. Laura Watts, who wrote a book about island studies, put it much better than I could do. What she said was that islands are often on the planetary front line of environmental change. They are long shorelines, you saw this, and specialized ecosystems are finely tuned and sensitive places, barometers for the earth. So these are the harbingers of the problems that the other places are going to bring. They are advanced indicators or extreme reproductions of what is the future elsewhere. So that is why we are sharing with you our experiences in the islands. what happened in Maldives today, what happened in small islands today is a little bit exaggerated indications of what can and what is happening in many other parts of the world. Just to give an introduction about the country, you cannot see it because. Thank you. By the way, you can be a little bit active in this session. Okay, you can talk, right? Like what the kind lady did now. Yeah. So you have visited Maldives, yes. But the thing is, when you look at in the world map, actually you cannot see it because islands are so tiny, right? So it's there. This graph, if you look at, I'm showing too many graphs maybe, but look at that graph. X-axis is the land area of islands. Maldives has 187 islands with people living in them, right? So you can imagine that each island needs to be provided with water supply, electricity, telecommunication, and on top of that there are about 150 islands that has resorts, tourist resorts. So more than 300 something islands where you need to provide this infrastructure. So it's a master class about infrastructure provision. These are the islands that we are working in this 3S water project. Mula, Muli and Kolfushi. It doesn't matter what are the names of the islands, but you can see that these are organized in what we call atolls. So these are the shallow sea areas those are the results of long geological processes. But the result is you have these very tiny islands like a necklace. Actually, that is why this is called Maldives. In the ancient Hindu languages, Mala means necklace. So these islands are like necklaces. You can see it here. That's why it's called Maldives. If you look at the water system in this island, this is very relevant to Jordan as well, even though in not exact same shape. In small islands, what happens is you have this fresh water that is floating above the salt water. This is a very thin layer, even though I have drawn this as a very thick layer to show it clearly, but it's a very thin layer of salt water, fresh water floating above the salt water. So you can imagine the level of vulnerability in these islands, because this freshwater lens depends on, among other things, rainfall rates. Luckily, Maldives get a lot more rainfall than Jordan. Yeah, here is about 400 millimeters. You get 2,000 millimeters in this part of the Maldives. When you go to north, it's less. In the south, it's more. Here, about 2,000 millimeters. So you get plenty of rainfall. But problem is there is no way you can keep that rainfall in the nature, because this freshwater lens is very dynamic. Just by filling water from the top, you cannot extend it infinitely. But on the other hand, if you pump too much water, the lens recedes. So you can imagine it is a very vulnerable situation, and you can compare this with, for example, the Wadi systems in the Jordan. For example, they have very similar problems, right? Even though the geography is right.
Can I ask a question,
Sure.
please? Can we go back to that slide?
Yeah. I like this. Let's do it like this.
Very interesting presentation. No, the freshwater slide.
No, the lens.
Yeah, the lens.
Yeah, okay.
Small layer. I was just wondering, since we're students, we're not really familiar with this. How does the freshwater, after you consume it, after you pump it out, how does it come back again?
You have to repeat it because we have also one line and for the translation.
All right.
Otherwise, Antonio will not hear.
My question was, after we use the fresh water, how does it come back, besides rainfall?
Yeah. So what happens is, you can imagine this freshwater lens as something which is in a kind of dynamic equilibrium. So you have to keep on putting water from the top. So what happens is the rainfall, luckily these countries have very high rainfall, so that keeps on replenishing this freshwater lens, and then you also keep on losing water continuously. So it's in a dynamic balance. Just because you get a lot of water from the rainfall does not mean that it's there. It keeps on losing as well, okay? But at the same time, people use this water quite a lot, so I'm going to come to that in a moment in the presentation. So I think I explained it a little bit.
Thank you, thank you.
Okay. This groundwater system is heavily polluted, right? We have a lot of data, but this is only a sample of E. coli, that is an indicator of human feces related pollution. You don't need to do lot of lab tests to do this. If you smell the water, you feel it. So you can imagine the quality of life of people who are using this water. We have used this water, we have visited the island, we feel the smell. It's like rotten egg smell because it's heavily polluted. But I told you earlier that one reason why it is polluted is that increasingly the recharge. I told you that recharge is very important for the system, but recharge is reduced because of the human activities. Because people want to get rid of the stormwater as fast as possible by sending it to the sea. So what we are trying to do as part of this project is to encourage people to use that kind of infrastructure. Instead of getting rid of stormwater, try to encourage them to feed that into the groundwater system. Because by feeding stormwater, what you are doing is you are feeding it with relatively good quality water. So at least you are reducing the concentration of pathogens in the system by doing that. Okay? By the way, that is not our design. It's a system that people use traditionally. What we did was only we added extra barrels by doing engineering calculations. Sometimes you need more than one barrel. So we simply augmented the design. So we are very happy to say that it was a system that was in existence in islands before we went there. If you talk to people in these islands, they prefer rainwater. There's a reason for that, because Maldives has a very long tradition of collecting rainwater and using it for potable purposes. You know that rainwater is a very soft source of water. There's not much hardness, so people's palates are used to that. Right? I'll come to this in a moment. So, the government of the Maldives have decided that every island should have a right water supply. And they have come with a typical design of water supply that looks like this. From the very deep in the middle of the island, you pump water out. So practically you are pumping seawater, but you are pumping it not from the sea, but from the deep groundwater. You remember that when you go deep, it's a seawater practically, but the quality is a little bit more consistent, so they prefer to do that. So take it out, do some pre-filtration, and then you go to the membrane filtration. Again, that is something that happens quite a lot in Jordan and this area in general, but these are very small scale systems, by the way. Don't imagine these of the size of desalination systems in Jordan. They are very small, but same principles. Then you discharge the brine into the sea. Then they have other part of the system, that is you collect rainwater. I told you that these islands get a lot of rainfall. So you collect rainwater from public buildings and then store it and do some filtration, ultrafiltration, which can bring the quality equivalent to membrane filtrated water. You can mix it together and you mix it to 3:7 ratio, and chlorination, storage and distribution. So this is how the water system in the Maldives work. Luckily, many systems have solar photovoltaic installations, so at least they offset some of the carbon emissions and energy requirement by having solar panels. At least 30-40% of the energy requirement can be covered by solar system. This is how the system works in theory, but the practice is prone with problems. Because again, this is where the lessons you learn from islands come back into applications in places like Middle East. Because imagine these islands like rural areas, because these islands are small communities far away from the capital. Systems look like this, rural areas, and the technology and the people who are trained to run these systems are hard to come by, one. Two, sometimes supplies of chemicals and other spare parts and things take a lot of time. Typical problems of rural systems, typical problems of island systems. Now, I want to show you one example of this. You know, in one of the islands, we measured water quality parameters in the groundwater, in the rainwater that people have collected, and the pipe water system. Okay? And we found something that we could not explain. In that particular island, pipe water system had more pathogens than the rainwater or the groundwater. I told you to start with groundwater system is heavily contaminated, it was smelly, but rainwater, the supply water had more pathogens than the white. Then we went on, after that we repeated our testing because this was very unusual. Then we went and tried to see why. Then we realized the typical problems. In this particular situation, the chlorine supplies did not come to the plant for about like 3-4 months due to various reasons. So no chlorine. The plant operator had to keep on running it without chlorine, one. Two, due to some construction issues or maintenance issues, the treated water is being contaminated on the way to the consumer. So when you combine the two problems, you start getting a situation like this, cross-contamination. So this is again, without going into too much detail, this is the infrastructure problem you are facing in small islands, in rural areas and so on. You need to be very, very careful. We need to be very, very careful when you are proposing solutions for small communities, because they have to be solutions that can be managed in those small communities. So that is the lesson here. This I will skip it. Now, what can we learn from this? If you ask the question, these complex current systems, have they solved the water system? Tentatively, I would say no. It was well intentioned. The government had very good intentions of doing this, but due to various problems, as you saw, the system does not work really well. So you have an issue of sustainability there. And the other problem that I did not talk about here is that affordability of water. Because in the Maldives, the outer islands, like rural areas in many other countries, are populated with people who have low income. And a lot of people, when I talk to them, they come back with their water bills and show it to me and say that, do you think that I can afford paying this much of money for the water? The answer is simply no. So the business model is completely off. That's a problem. Again, I'm not putting the blame on the government or any other party. This is the reality, okay, that we have to grapple with. Can islands afford the technical capacity needed? That was the problem. Are there better models of water supply? Maybe yes. That is where the research comes in. Actually, I mean, we cannot hope to solve an old problem by doing the same thing we have been doing in the past. So we need to come up with different models of water supply, different business models, different technological models, different systems that hopefully work better in this context. It's not a problem only with technology. It's a problem of the context as well. And what are the aspirations of the islands? We have talked to many islanders. They say that I don't like to drink the desalinated water because it doesn't taste right. I like to drink rainwater. Okay, so that's another idea. That's another side of this story. And finally, this is not a lesson you can learn from there and apply here, but 2,000 millimeters of rainfall, well distributed over the year. There is your resource. So why don't we think about system that works together with this, rather than coming up with a system that needs a lot of technology and so on. So what are the lessons for Jordan and the Middle East? Very different geography, but similar problems. You have the pollution problem, lack of water due to very different reasons. Here you have lack of water because of low rainfall. In the Maldives you have lack of water because you get a lot of rainfall, but there's no way you can retain it. It goes through. So, desalination at very different scales. In Jordan you have these huge, humongous desalination plants, but then some consultants and solution providers thought that when you miniaturize those systems and bring it to the islands, it would work. Technologically it would, but contextually it's not so successful, right? There are a lot of cross-learning possibilities. So with that, I'm going to leave the podium and allowing my colleagues to fill in the details from different aspects of the story that I was trying to tell here, right? So please keep up your questions. It's very nice to have a question in the middle of a session, so please go on with the good practice. Questions, comments are very much welcome while we are talking. So with that, I will finish.
Thank you, Wasila. Thank you for the very nice introduction, and just to add on the way we think about it, like even thinking about climate change, the main idea of adaptation is to go smaller. Whenever you go smaller, then you adapt to, if there is a disaster, then you manage small portion of area where you have pollution. So it's also a kind, the way that I think about it from the Jordanian, as a Jordanian partner, is that when we go smaller, we adapt better to the climate change and the disasters that we see, particularly, for example, in urban communities. So it's not only fitting the rural area, but we have to really think about it for urban communities as well. With this, I also would like to welcome Fazila for her presentation on water source preference and utility perceptions from 4 Maldivian islands. Right? Please, Fazila.
Good morning. I think Wasila has given a really good introduction about our country, the Maldives. Sometimes I feel that he knows more about our country than ourselves, because he has been going back and forth for how many, more than 10 years? I'm sure close to 5. But yeah, he has been a frequent coming also. Especially on the water-related concept, he's very well versed in what happens. So a bit of a background, as Wasila mentioned, we are a consortium working together in the project, and Villa College is more of a higher education partner. So just to let it out that my background is not water. I'm more for social research, so my research actually includes the community, their lifestyle, their difficulties. So as part of the project, what we this is the findings that we actually going to present following up from Wasila, what happened in these selected islands. So we have Muli, Mula, Korofushi, and also in a different island, that is Mahibadu. In 4 islands, we had students who completed. As part of the project, we were able to offer 3 students scholarships to complete their dissertations. It was Masters of Public Health students who actually traveled to these islands and they did their dissertation topics on the specific objectives of based on the specific objectives of the project, focusing on quality of the water, how the community's perception, their experiences, their attitudes towards the water quality, the services provided by the utility and how the water has been managed in these selected islands. So they have already completed their dissertations, they have submitted their dissertations, the students themselves has presented their findings in the regional conferences on these water projects, and we have disseminated. And if I'm not mistaken, as far as I know, this is the very limited studies has been done, so this is one of the few studies that has been completed in the context of the Maldives, especially based on the communities living in these rural islands, how they experience water, how the utilities is provided, and the students themselves. One of them is actually working in a senior position in the utility. We call it FENACA, the water utilities providers, especially in the Atoll Islands. And one student is actually working there, so she has that internal knowledge about it as well. The other student is more of a scientific background. She did laboratory testing of water-related matter. So that concept also is done. So it was a really fruitful findings, the project, and we have really good reviews from the ministry as well, because recently we have disseminated their findings in the social media as well. So I just wanted to give an introduction as our part. So we supported the students, and I will hand over to my colleagues to provide more details of the findings that we have found from these 4 islands in the studies. So first I will call Selena to present the first 2 findings of Muli, Mulla and Mahibadu. Thank you.
Thank you, Fasila. Good morning to all. So, one of the students who is working is a senior microbiologist in Maldives Food and Drug Authority. This is her study. So, her study was actually about So her study mainly was about water preference, whether the community likes bottled water, filtered water, rainwater. So, and this study was done in 3 islands called Fushi, Mulla and Muli. So the key findings was that most of the community people preferred bottled water rather than the utility provided water. So they had more trust on the bottled water, but they really didn't think about the quality of it. But because it's bottled, they had the perception that, okay, this is good quality. So her findings mostly was because the trust was not there. It may be because of the services provided, or maybe it was not continuous. They may be having interruptions in the utility water provider. So the recommendations she has suggested was to improve municipal water safety and communication, and the other one was about awareness. So maybe it can be due to lack of awareness among the community what is actually safe water. So another recommendation which she has suggested was develop household filtration programs and just do a comparison on that, how they perceive. So that is one study which she discussed that she is interested to do on this, whether the quality of bottled water with the desalinated water which is provided, because she has her own, being a microbiologist, she feels that the utility water was much more safer than the bottled water. Okay, this is not in those 3 islands, this is in the 4th island. It was in Mahibadu. So her study was based on perceived quality of utility water services provided in a small island, Mahibadu. So, among the key findings, the gaps were that the customer experience and the perception, the reliability, the responsiveness. So, it may be due to lack of sustainability and some factors that influence service quality perceptions, and also desalinated water residents rely on unsafe sources due to inconsistent service. These things may be due to human resource, equipment, and the recommendation provided was that improve water service reliability and responsiveness, enhance public awareness of water safety practices to improve service delivery. So that was one of the suggestions given by this student, and the findings which I have shared. This is one of the students who she is not much into the quality, or she is not working in the utility, but so she is one of the students who really went into finding that how this service the community perceived, which was delivered to them. Okay. So I just hand over to Mamduha for the next presentation.
Thank you very much, and first of all, I would just like to thank the organizers, and so far, the few days we have been here in Jordan, we have found the people are very kind and very friendly, so it's been a very good experience so far, so thank you very much. So moving on, as my colleague said, so this, as part of this Trias Water project, our students, I think in one of those pictures, those are our students there, okay? So these are the studies conducted under this, the scholarships provided under this project. And so we had 3 students and 3 studies were done, and this is the last one, which so some were looking into the preferences and the quality as well. So here it's, this study was done to see, again it's more of looking at the perception of people, how they feel which water is better for their usage. And as you can see, that I think Asila has shown the geography of the country, and you can see that there are so many challenges faced due to the geographical arrangement of the country, I can say. So due to that, we have like the constraints faced due to the geographical arrangement, as well as the water intrusion, which I think Asila has shown in that, and as well as, I think, as my colleagues have said, the awareness. People are not aware as the misunderstanding. They feel that when it's coming in, and I think there is some, I think we can say, debate we can say, because as Asila has said, there is sometimes we find that the utility water is not as safe as it is recommended. So that could be one of the factors, okay? So based on this study, we found that, okay, the student gets wisest, okay? Yeah? So that, as my colleagues have said also, this study also found that the people preferred bottled water over the utility provided water by the utility service, okay? And we also found that the knowledge of waterborne health correlates with the better safety practices, as well as we found that there are financial constraints they are related to this issue. So some of the recommendations are to raise awareness. I think this is one of the major things, because when we go and because during these some of the trips that we had taken to the islands related to this project, we found that yes, this awareness is one of the key issues. Okay, people, there are a lot of misunderstandings there. And also provide financial support for water treatment systems, as I said earlier. So this is also one of the key challenges that the country is facing. So overall, we found that water quality concerns, lack of trust in municipal systems, and financial barriers affect water access in the Maldives.
and also education on water safety and improvements in infrastructure are critical. So this education related to water is, I think, almost non-existent in the country. So this is something which needs to be introduced rather than saying enhanced. I think this is something that needs to be introduced in our country. Moreover, so looking at the way forward, we feel that foster community engagement and improve water service reliability, because there's a lot of distrust in the water that is being provided by the government, and also ensure sustainable access to safe water sources. So I think that is what ASELA and the team is trying to do here, to raise this awareness and to give help us in getting access to safe water. So once again, thank you very much for ASELA and team, as well as the organizers, and Maha as well, for a wonderful job here. Thank you very much.
Thank you much.
So just also to comment on that, I think we also face this trouble when we have lost some trust with the government, when we have one incident of contamination of water sources, and then the people suddenly shifted all to bottled water, and it took ages, and still we are suffering with convincing them back again that the water that comes from the government is safer than the bottled water. But I think it's a matter of trust, and it will take some time before the people recognize the quality that is produced by the government and the utility. Okay. Now we move to our third speaker from India. He is with us online, and he will talk about water sustainability challenges in the small islands. So, Atul, the floor is yours. Can you share your presentation? Yes.
Yeah, I will try to upload my presentation. Yeah, I think I am visible now. The slides are visible now.
Yes, yes.
Please, anyone?
Yes, we can see them.
And I'm audible also. Okay. So, very good afternoon from India. I'm Dr. Atul Mandure. I'm working here as a principal scientist at CSIR, National Environmental Engineering Research Institute, Nagpur, which is in Nagpur. So, yeah, we are one of the partner of this entire project, and we are working on mostly on the water quality related issues and challenges in all these islands. So, looking after the graph and the all the issues, environmental related issues in the islands. Yes, all as in the very first talk, Dr. ASELA says. All the small and isolated islands are being environmental and social being vulnerable for the various climate related aspects. Yes, these are because of various reasons and upcoming climate related issues in the water sector. And when we talk about the water sector, yes, it is already stressed. These are the few reasons why it is been stressed. Changing seasonal pattern is one of the important aspects, because in the Maldives, if we go through the entire rainfall pattern, we'll find every month you get some rainfall, and that rain is being collected by locals which is being used for the domestic purposes. But change in the seasonal rainfall has been creates the discontinuity somewhere for the practice which is going on from the ages. Increased national disasters, we all know about that, because half a meter rise in sea level would be a disaster for them, or even though change in the various tsunamis kind of thing. Seawater level rise, as I said, and the seawater intrusion, yes, it is important, because as shown by the first presenter, you have very small, say, groundwater lens or freshwater lens in there floating on the saline water. So seawater institution definitely will create issue with the groundwater lens, very small the groundwater lens, and watershed changes is issue. Because why watershed changes is the issue? Because the anthropogenic activity leads to increase the production of sewerage or wastewater, and that is being definitely going to your ground, being contaminated to your groundwater. So watershed changes in that way affects mostly because of the anthropogenic activity in our small islands. And if I say, and you all know the maximum, like most of the islands have diameter of not more than one kilometer. So in that small groundwater lens, small changes would affect the quality in multifold way. Okay, this is what the geographical area of our research. So many like previous representatives already discussed about that. As the first presenter says, the water resources are islands. The first one is the pipe water, which has been recently introduced. Groundwater is being used by the island peoples from ages. Rainwater is being used by them from the ages. And now the packaged drinking water is being again introduced by them by the modern society in that way as a drinking water. So these are the four. So for that we had very stringent sanitary surveillance. We did it in all the islands, and we found out all the possible ways to get into the understanding of the usage pattern of the island peoples, and the disease burden and the climate change effects on all the water ecosystem. So water usage is one of the important for the drinking purposes, like sanitary hazards. Probably they get because of various things, and we come to understand that at different islands people have different habit of consuming the water. It's based on the availability again. Definitely, it's based on the availability. It's based on the people taste bud and all these things. So in the where the pipe water supply is being introduced, say a few years back, the people have started adopting it, and the pipe water is being used by them as a drinking water source heavily in the Mula Island. Whereas in the Muli and Columbushy, both the islands, the pipe water system is recently being introduced, and that is what the people not being started, or they are not that much acquainted with that particular system, and that is what they are still using the system which they are following from the ages. Obviously, it's a human mentality, conflict kind of thing. So people will get convinced with the time, and it takes some time, obviously. So this is what the scenario we found at the islands. And when I look towards the various hazards, we could found out during surveillance. So the hazards to the contamination of the water by the bacterial contamination, mostly E. coli and fecal contamination. We found out that there are various probable hazards which are or probable things which going to be affect the purity of water, and it could contaminate the water, and at various levels, like at the tank, at the well, and at the in the groundwater even though. So these are the observations from where and these are the different at the different islands. There is no any pattern in the observations we get because of the usage pattern or say water availability patterns and other aspects also affect it. This is what the we did extensive sampling and water body sampling at the household to the entire WTP water treatment plant, to the pipe water supply network, and all these places. To get the crux of the where the water quality is getting contaminated, we collect four of the sample from the 4 location at each household. At each household. Okay, the first one is the pipe water which is being introduced to the household. Second one is the rainwater, then point of use, the RO or whatever the system they have installed at their houses, and the groundwater. And we conduct the various physiochemical and microbiological analysis of the entire water quality, collected water quality, collected samples for the water quality analysis. These are the few photographs during our field studies, and the results were surprising. One of them already discussed by the first presenter. The results were surprising. Yes, the groundwater is contaminated in most of the places. Reasons, yes, we tried to find out the reason, and the reason would be mostly because of the anthropogenic activities, man-made activities. Even though there is fecal contamination in the groundwater, pipe water supply, as first presenter said, yes, it is contaminated at the various level and at various percentage in the different islands. And the rainwater is also affected because what I previously presented in what I presented in previous slide, because of various probable reasons. So rainwater which they are consuming is being found to be contaminated. There are, and this is not the heat map we try to plot out of contamination for the total Gulf at the different islands, and it is mostly network, the outflow of the sewerage network, and it can be correlated very easily. The fecal contamination also the follow same trend, and we get a similar idea like or it will help. It helps us to identify the basic of contamination, groundwater contamination. So we also try to understand find out the risk because of the microbial contamination. This is said to be the very well-known aspect is a quantitative microbial risk assessment. QMRA aspects or QMRA approach we have used during the getting the to assess the risk. And these are the various bacteria or viruses we have quantified, and there are various associated risks also being tried to quantify. So methodology we follow is the hazard identification, exposure assessment, dose response assessment, and the risk characterization. So we find out the these are the inputs to the QMRA when we assess the risk. And based on the entire approach, we try to come come with some conclusion. Then in the QMRA you get the probability of infection. You need to feed some probable reasons the observation in the field, and you will get the probability of infection. And it is different at the different islands, and this is what the different for the different type of water source, groundwater, pipe water, and again rainwater. So we get the high chances of the contamination at these particular islands at the different location. We also try to WSP, as next speaker will talk on the WSP in a very detailed way. But WSP approach we also try to find out to understand the probable risk of contamination, and these are the various steps of the WSP. So when we conduct the try to assess the risk to the WSP, we assume these four, we adapt these four methodologies: the surface, understanding of water distribution network, water treatment strategy, and probable infection was assessed from the community supply and all these things. So we use all the four aspects to assess the probability of contamination from the WSP through the WSP approach. This is what the water treatment plant or the water treatment system and the each island, that's very well presented by first presenter. And we try to, as I said, from the WHO, we try to find out the probability of infection. That is, in the pipe water supply, we get different islands. Various reasons are there, and the people's approach is again found to be people's care about the supplied water is found to be major reason behind this probability of for the probable infection. And we also try to find out the probability of infection in the WTP at the different point. At the UF outlet, RO outlet, degasser, and at the different location. So, and again, we come to understood it like PC means post chlorination and the supply water and all these things. So we get different probability of infection. This has been calculated based on the experimental results, and we get different because of the different roof walls or say operational not following the proper operational guideline or improper quality maintenance and all these things. These are the various aspects behind the entire probability infection probability. So sorry. Then this is for the one of the island, that is Moli, and this is for the two different islands, Moli and Kolikushi. So the type of contamination approach should be more or less same in all the three islands, whereas the percentage is a little bit different. This is what the probability of it. Filtration and then it getting collected in the storage tank. So at the different islands we found different reasons for the probability of contamination, and the UF working and its maintenance again found to be one of the reasons for the high contamination and at the first island. So then what I said, and what first presenter also said, at such small islands managing a skillful manpower is a real challenge. Skillful manpower for the maintenance, for the routine quality control and quality assessment, and if the things being change with the time, so to correct these things you require skilled manpower, and almost all the islands lack that particular skilled manpower because of their isolate remotely locations. So this is the main crux of for the entire contamination, or main crux or main reason behind the probability of contamination at the various locations. So in conclusion, if we conclude try to conclude the entire work or presence, and obviously I have like huge data behind the physicochemical and all the physical parameter related data, so I am not present because of the time constraint. But I mostly focus on the microbiology data here. So for all islands, quantity is the issue. Yes, because you have water, plenty of water around you, but you don't have the water, drinkable water with us, with the island. So quantity is the issue, and along with the quantity, quality is again is a big issue. And even though you have very good, I would say, so world class WTPs in place, the main crux. You have hardware, but the software part somewhere being missed because of the trained manpower, which is the very important aspects, and which is true in not only small and isolated islands. This is true in all municipal corporation or in the big cities. And here in the big cities or in municipal corporation, getting skilled manpower is not that much manageable aspect. So that way you can manage the all aspects. But in the islands, yes, it's a really challenging issue. And these factors, in addition to the rainwater harvesting, implementation of climate resilience or WSP. So these things like capacity development, rainwater harvesting, and WSP approach will try to help to improve the situation, or it will at least address, or at least by the combination of all these three approach, at least you can assess what is going wrong and where is going wrong, kind of thing. So obviously the WSP approach can be used in the bigger way to routinely monitor the water quality, as well as routinely address the issue if there. So again, the policy approaches like the waste management strategy, regulation of land use and rainwater harvesting, development economic security, and the policy, and the governance. All these aspects again affects the entire safe water supply to everyone in the small islands. Thank you for your presence.
Thank you. Thank you. You already mentioned included lots of information, impressive work on the quality, on water quality from different drinking water sources at the Maldives, and very good introduction to the water safety planning, which we already also have lots of experiences in water safety planning in Jordan, and already implemented by some utilities where we have one utility, they are pioneers within the region on even training on water safety planning. And this is a very good introduction, I think, to our next speakers who will introduce water safety planning for the small islands. It will be introduced by Okosowa from the IHE. She has, I think, social background, like a doctor in social studies. So let us hear from you, Okosowa, on the work that has been done within the project framework on water safety planning in the Maldives. Please.
Thank you, Maha. I will continue a bit more from what Acho just presented on water safety plans, but I will focus more on what has been done within this project in the Maldives. Trying to build the capacity of the staff, like what we want to do, the local staff in developing their own water safety plans. But before I do that, I will just introduce a bit about what water safety plans are, why they are important, then I go to what we have done in the Maldives currently. So water safety plans are just a comprehensive risk assessment that involve the various steps of water supply. So from catchment to the consumer's homes. It involves trying to assess contamination at the source, that is your catchment. Contamination through the treatment, when you are treating the water. And trying to prevent contamination when water is moving through your pipes or when it's in storage. And then finally trying to prevent contamination when water is in the household. That is basically what water safety planning is about. So why do we need water safety plans as water utilities? Why don't we just provide water supply to people's homes? Usually for water supply, and before I continue, I also have a background in water. I'm a water treatment engineer. That is my first job before I went to do a PhD in social science. And then I now do more social science research in water safety planning. So as water utility person or water quality person, what gave us an idea of the safety of our water was basically testing the water at the end of production. That is what we do. Very reactive, so you test the water and then you know what the quality of the water is in people's homes from consumer points. But let's look at this scenario. So you produce water, it goes into people's homes, and the water is contaminated on day 0. Then usually we don't sample every day, so you have different sampling points. And before you realize, you sample the water and test it on day 7. That is contaminated water, you sample, and then you test it on day 7. And then we all know that when you test like for the coliforms or E. coli, you don't get the result the same day. It takes a day or 2 to get the result. So you only get to know that the water is contaminated on day 9. And then by day 10, we tell people within that area to boil and drink their water. But already, people already drank the water. Between day 0 and day 10, they are drinking the contaminated water. So you realize that when you test on day 7, and then you report to keep the water safe on day 10, people are already drinking contaminated water. That is why it's important. Testing on day 7 is important. But then because people will drink contaminated water, between day 7 and day 0 and 10, it's important for you to be very proactive and not reactive. That is basically why you need to have a water safety plan, to assess the different risks from the catchment to people's homes, and try to catch these risks early enough so that you prevent the situation that I just presented. So water safety plans first appeared with the WHO guidelines in 2004, the 3rd edition of the guidelines for drinking water quality. And here they only presented steps to develop water safety plan for water supply system. And quite recently that has been updated, 2024, just last year. It's a 4th edition. And in this edition, what they have done is to now separate the safety plans for large supplies and small systems, like urban systems and small systems. And basically, they all involve 10 or 7 steps. 10 steps if you are going for the large systems, the urban system, and 7 steps if it's for the small systems. And what basically the steps involve are trying to put up the team together, very important, identify your risk, and try to find measures how you would eliminate this risk or try to maintain this risk, to monitor the risk, and then also to try to keep the safety plan active. It's a live document, not just one document. Once you have the plan, you keep updating that with different risks as they come, so that you are on top to keep your water safe. So now let's go back to the Maldives situation. Why was there the need to have a safety plan? This has been already explained in previous presentations that the safety, the water quality on the island was bad. The water was contaminated in the households, in the treatment plants, and also on the island they didn't have a plan, and none of the islands have a safety plan. So there was a need for this to be done. So as part of the project of us going there as consultants, develop a plan and leave it for them. As part of what we wanted to do with this project, build capacity of the local people, we decided to now have a water safety plan, training for the staff of the utilities on the different islands, and through that develop the capacity to develop their own water safety plans. And then we did this based on the course we have developed at IHE Delft, together with the Netherlands Institute for the Environment, and also WHO and the German Agency of Environmental Agents. So this is a course we have already developed. It's free online, anybody can follow to do that. But in the Maldives situation, we made it more instructor-led, went to the island. So we went to the island in Mula, where we hosted the islands from the Memu Atu. We brought them together, brought staff, about 12 people from the utility, from the health ministry, from the island council together, to train them on how to develop their own water safety plans. And in doing this, because of the previous knowledge that we had about the contaminated water, we focused more on risk assessment, trying to find out where the risks are. And I think Atul from India already presented some of the risks. So we went together with the people hands-on to try to understand the risk in the different aspects of the treatment into their homes. And after we did this was the outcome of the training. So we had 12 staff trained, hands-on trained on how to develop their own risk assessment and how to develop their own water safety plans for their individual islands. And then, so now they have a draft plan. So the course is designed in a way that once you go through the entire course, you have a plan, a draft plan for your safety plan. You can also follow that. It's online, free, open access on IHE courseware. If you want to learn more about that, you can also do that. And after you go through the course, you can have it a draft safety plan. But in the modern situation, we went there, brought them together for a week to do this. And then what we realized when the training was that there was this language barrier. The training was in English. So when we were given the training, there was the English version and there was a translation by my colleague here, Ali, who was translating to the Vihi. So we realized that people want to follow the course, but then it's in English, so they could not follow it by themselves. So what we did was, after the training, was to translate the entire course based on the small, for the small systems to the Vihi, which is also open access for people in the Maldives, from the over 100 islands who want to learn about water safety plan, to go there and then learn about it and develop it for their systems.
I have a question.
Yes, Brian.
Are the water safety plans that you, let's say, taught the people there how to follow, are they standardized, or were they fine-tuned according to the situation that the Maldives is going through, as we have seen through the previous presentations?
Yeah, I was going to go to that, but I will answer that. So these were fine-tuned. So instead of us going there to do it for them, now it's something that they did themselves, fine-tuned to their situation. So that they identify the risk on their islands, on their treatment plans, and they are going to develop a plan based on that risk which they identified.
Can, for example, different places like, for example, the situation in Jordan, can we learn from these water safety planning and apply them in different places like here, for example?
Yes, very possible. So it's the steps, or if you want to follow the course, it gives you the steps, but then you can pick it up and then within your context, the most important thing is to define your own context, what your risks are, and then based on that you develop a plan specific to the, like in your case, the Jordanian context. You do that. So that is possible.
Thank you.
So what we have done after we developed the Vihi version, we also had this call from another atoll, which is a Kafu atoll, which has 8 different islands, to train their staff also to develop their plan. So in this instance, we use the Vihi version to train 14 more staff on 8 different islands to develop their own water safety plan. So this was done sometime in December last year, and we have also now other 8 islands also going to develop the water safety plan. So what we have done with this training, with this trying to contextualize water safety plan within the project, is to answer your question, have a context-specific water safety plan for the islands of the Maldives. And in here we have trained people. What we want to do, build local capacity. So you have trained people, currently 26, and with the online course in the Vihi, we know we'll have more people trained to do this. And then what we have done is that we didn't go there to present to them what to do, but here we work together with them, and try to understand their situation. So it's more of the knowledge within the Maldives have now been used to develop this plan. That is what we want to do with this project, develop local knowledge, contextualize local knowledge, and that is what we've done with the plan. And lastly, what has been said about the water quality from the treatment plant is said is very contaminated. So if with this draft plans, if the risk related on the treatment are really caught early, then the water quality or the water safety on the islands is going to improve. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very nice overview of what the project done on water safety planning. Maybe later we will ask Suzanne to reflect also on the question of Ammar. But now let me just directly move ahead because of the time constraints to our next speaker, who will give presentation on decentralized systems for runoff water management in Amman. He had a scholarship from the project to conduct his work and support also another running project that we are conducting at the University of Jordan. Please, Mohammed, the floor is yours.
He will give the presentation in Arabic.
Yes.
لبنان.
6 7 8 كل السطر. Doctor will face some difficulties.
السلام عليكم. السلام عليكم. أنا محمد أبو سلم، طالب ماجستير في الجامعة الأردنية. سعيد جدا بتواجد معكم بأسبوع المياه العربي. بتشكر الدكتورة مها على إتاحة الفرصة لنا، وبتشكر مشروع LPS Water على دعمكم وجهودهم معنا. ان شاء الله هشارككم مشروع بحثي اللي بيتكلم عن Decentralized System for Runoff Water in عمان. بداية كثير من مدن العالم بتواجه مشكلة الفيضانات، وهاي المشكلة بتزيد بسبب النمو العمراني السريع، والسبب الثاني هو تغير مناخي اللي بيؤدي إلى شدة الأحداث المطرية، وهذا الشيء بيزيد من تحدي مواجهة الفيضانات. في عمان عندنا يعني التحدي بيزيد بسبب تضاريس الجبلية لمدينة عمان، بسبب ضعف البنية التحتية لشبكة تصريف مياه الأمطار لمواجهة هذا الأحداث المطرية الكبيرة. نشوف هون بالصور بعض الأحداث اللي شهدتها مدينة عمان عام 2019 وعام 2015، اللي هي تحديدا منطقة وسط البلد مدينة عمان، سببت خسائر كثير كبيرة للمدينة، وهذا الشيء يعني بحثنا وخلينا ندور على حلول مستدامة لمواجهة هذه الفيضانات. المشكلة الثانية اللي بتواجه مدينة عمان والأردن بشكل عام هي ضعف الموارد المائية، قلة الموارد المائية. يعني عام 2021 كانت حصة الفرد 61 متر مكعب، وممكن هاي تقل 35 متر مكعب عام 2040، واذا ما لقينا حلول. يعني هاي راح المشكله تضل تواجهنا اذا ما لقينا حلول. والخارطه الثانيه توضح يعني كميه الامطار اللي بتنزل على الاردن، وبتبين ضعفها. يعني اغلب المناطق عندنا يعني ما بينزلها كميات كبيره، غير منطقه الشمال الغربي الى الى الاردن، هي بينزل عليها كميات اكثر من باقي المناطق. أهداف الدراسة عندي هي تقييم Decentralized Water Harvesting System، وأشوف قديش أثرها بتخفيف الفيضانات، وأقيم جدول اقتصادية استخدام هاي الأنظمة، وأقدم توصيات لتعزيز استخدام هاي الأنظمة. الستدي اريا اللي شغال عليها حاليا بمنطقة حوالين الجامعة الأردنية بمنطقة عمان، تقع هي شمال غرب عمان، وهي تحديدا يعني حوالين الجامعة الأردنية. الصورة اللي قدامي بتوضح عندي قديش استخدام الأراضي، يعني تقريبا عندنا مباني وطرق نسبة 81% من مساحة المنطقة الإجمالية، مساحة المنطقة تقريبا 6 كيلو متر مربع، ومساحة المباني والطرق اللي فيها يعني تقريبا 81% من مساحتها. وهذا يعني منطقة شديدة التحضر يعني في عمان. الميثودولوجيا شغال عليها، اشتغلت انه اقيم الحصاد المائي ايش ممكن اقدر اخفف فيضانات عمان عن طريق انه اشتغلت سيناريو انه احسب الرنف من دون حصاد مائي، والسيناريو الثاني انه مع وجود حصاد مائي، واشوف قديش خففت فيضانات. استخدمت برمجيه انفو درينج وسيفل 3 دي بالاضافه الى ار جي اس يعني برمجيه انفو درينج بتتيح لنا كثير من الشغلات اللي بنقدر نستخدمها عشان نشوف اللي هي ستورم ووتر كنترول، زي بايو ريتنشن، زي اريا بوند، زي التنكات ستورج. يعني هاي اللي بتتيح لنا انه احنا نشوف قديش ممكن نخفف من اثر الرنم. النتائج اللي طلعت معي يعني بعد تحليل على برمجيه انفو درينج، صممنا شبكه تصريف مياه امطار، والنتائج اللي طلعت معي هون بدون استخدام حصاد مائي كان الاوتفول بعطيني 33 متر مكعب بير سكند، ولما استخدمت الحصاد المائي طبعا روفتوب يعني حصاد المائي للمنازل خفف عندي ل 22 متر مكعب بير سكند، يعني بنسبة تقريبا 33%. اعتمدت على استخدام اللي هي خزانات الأسطح على تقرير كان مقدم لأمانة عمان عن طريق وزارة المياه والري، واعتمدت أنا عليه باستخدام حجم الخزان، وشغال حاليا على شغل إني أطور قديش استخدام الخزان المناسب لاستخدامات اللي هي نحكي منزلية، عشان إنه يكون تكلفته أقل وما نحتاج لتنكات أكبر، عشان ما نحتاج لتنكات أكبر عشان موضوع التكلفة. الشغلة الثانية اللي شغال عليها حاليا إنه بدي أحسب يعني غير موضوع الحصاد المائي للمنازل، يعني بدي نقيم إنه لو استخدمنا بوند اريا أو بايو ريتنشن اريا عشان نشوف قديش ممكن برضه تخفف عندي من الرنف اللي عند الاوتلت عند المخرج. يعني ممكن في بعض المناطق نستخدمها، زي هاي المنطقة جوا الجامعة الأردنية، وهاي المنطقة عند الاوتلت للمنطقة، يعني ممكن نستخدم اريا بوينت ونخفف من اثر الرنف اللي عندي. ثانك يو، شكرا لكم جميعا.
Okay, so that was really good, shorter than. But do you have anyone has any question or comments on? Then I have also one comment, maybe for not only for the project but also for Jordan. When we talk about water safety planning, I think it might be also interesting to integrate with it sanitation safety planning, an integrated water and sanitation safety planning, because as we see, many of the solutions that can be keep the water safe is to prevent the contamination at the beginning, which comes from the wastewater, and this means that in any case we have to deal with the wastewater or for the whole water cycle. So maybe for I think next project it should be considered together, which also is a trend for or introduced by the WHO recently. Regarding the question of Ammar, maybe I can ask Suzanne to comment on that, on his question, because he was mentioning whether it's a standardized, can be,
water safety planning in general, if it wants to be on a national level first, it should, like in Jordan, we have developed manuals for every single step of the modules, the 11 modules of the water safety plans. That is for the purpose of training nationwide, to give you a general overview of the requirements. And then when it comes to the development of the water safety planning, it is tailored to each and every single supply system. And every single system has its own characteristics. And it comes from the description of the system, which is the crucial area in the whole module, because if you know every single step and where are the hazards, the entrance point to the system at each point, then you are safe to run a good risk management approach. So first, develop your own manuals in your own language. What is your language, by the way? From ايش اللانجوج اللي قاعدة تترجموا لها؟
in the Maldives, DVE.
يعني from where? From India? From where?
From the Maldives.
Only for Maldives.
Yes.
يعني nobody can understand it except you.
Yes, it was just for, it's in English, but then it was translated just for the people of the Maldives to understand and do it for their smaller systems. But the course for the developing the entire model is in English, hosted on IHE by IHE Delft.
Okay, yes, that's why maybe it's better first to develop the manuals, and they will be elaborated like step by step. It's not like what WHO mentioned, or very briefly. It will be tailored to your own people in your own language, and it will be every module is very elaborated, so as to give a step by step guidance to the people to follow.
Thank you. Another comment from.
This is very interesting, Susan, because when we looked at the context of the Maldives, what we realized was that very important part you mentioned, that is having it at the national level and then having it translated, elaborated, that step was missed. So that step was not there in the national government. So simply the government has asked the islands to come up with a water safety plan without that very important step. So that is where we jumped in, because the island councils, so those are the municipalities in the islands, they are much smaller. They asked us, okay, now the government is asking us to produce this something called water safety plan. Can you help us? So it was a very unusual situation in that sense, because as you rightly mentioned, first it has to start at the national level. So you need to have to get a grasp about the situation at that level. Then you have to produce good training material, good guidelines for the others to follow. And that step did not happen in the country. That was the problem.
Next step is the regulatory
Yeah.
and the power, where you have the independent person or body
Yeah.
to look at your the utilities water safety plan, the individual ones, to approve it.
Yeah.
Also according to the national guidelines that were developed in the first place.
The regulatory part is happening to some degree in the Maldives, I think, because we have somebody here from the regulator actually, which I would like to say something about. Maybe I was wrong, but so he's the regulator.
Yeah, I'm actually representing regulatory, it's called Utility Regulatory Authority. So we are actually regulating all the water services, sewerage and power services. So yeah, we, as per our regulations right now, the local authorities need to formulate the water safety plan and submit for URS approval. So as Asela has mentioned, the major problem is that the local councils don't have the know-how of going around with it, because first of all, there has to be a initiative from the utility, because the island councils, they don't have an idea on how the systems are. So there has to be a collaboration with the local utilities and the council. So I think the project has stepped in to actually localize the context of the water safety plan, which is a very good thing, I think. So there will be it's going to be a major achievement to the atoll, Neem atoll, because I think by the end of the project there will be some good water safety plans done, because now it's localized, and also there has to be some initiative from the councils. End of the day they will submit it to a URMI office where we will have a look and then endorse it. So it's already in a process, and then we do also have a process of ensuring the water quality, but since Maldives is scattered, decentralized, and we are located in one capital, it's very difficult for us to ensure that all the water supply in all the islands are in good quality. So we have a reporting mechanism, but there's a major challenge because our islands we have 1,900 islands scattered. We are based in one island, so as a major challenge for the government to, as a regulator, also to fulfill the regulatory works. So from our side, yeah.
So basically, we as IHE, we are not developing the plans for them, like as you have explained. Why we have the local contest in there is to, the bigger picture is there. So if you go through the model, it's a course. It's just from the 1st to the 11 models are all in there. But the Maldives is a smaller island, so they use the 7 models. So that is in there. So the plan is that by having it, now the regulator or the government level is not there, it's lost. So by having it from the bottom, from the smaller islands, our next step is to try to get the ministries also to have that national guideline, national map, or national roadmap as to what to do. But we need to also, together with the ministries, have a national safety plan model, like a manual for them to follow. So based on what we are going to do, the next level is to try to get the ministry to have the national manual, so that the others, like the next step, I think now about other Carolina Islands could also pick this up and follow. But then the added value is that it's in the local language. And then every staff, everybody else can follow this model, just a course, to understand what to do within their context.
Good efforts, I congratulate you because you are in a good.
And also, as Ali mentioned, it's really very challenging. We never thought that, because they are lots of hundreds of islands, very difficult to manage. So
we are ready to help in this beautiful
area. Okay, with this, I have already 3 alerts that the session has to be ended. I would like to thank you all for your fruitful discussions and the very nice presentations, and please, the lunch, I can join you to the lunch area so we can. Thank you. Thank you, Anatoly.